winter weather, so we've been outside a lot, and there's snow and ice on the lakes. And we have a small, I think you call it dam, just by our house, so we go outside and go ice skating on it. So we've been out ice skating today, and that was fun but really cold. So we skated for a while, and then we went inside, and the kids had hot chocolate, and we had some glögg, which is a warm beverage, kind of a scented wine that you heat. And then lunch. So that was a great morning. Yeah. The tandem knits are finished, and since they dried, they have been worn all the time, so they're favorites, the Ridari sweaters. Our daughters are wearing them now, so I can't show them, but I'll try to insert a picture somewhere or ask some technical person for help. But I have started the Birkin by Caitlin Hunter, and I can't remember the name of the lady who commented, but thank you very much for your comment. I sat down and read the description in detail, and I realized I had to modify it a bit, quite a bit, because our daughter didn't. She had an idea in her head of what she wanted, and it was quite different in this, but she really loves the yoke in it, so I'll be using that pattern. The Birkin is knitted from the top down. Somehow I find that I don't get the ribbing cast off the way I want. Maybe I have to find another cast off. If someone would like to help me in the comments to give me helpful advice on what kind of cast off to use. I try to use the elastic. It's not called cast off, it's called bind off, right? So if someone could help me find a good bind off, because I find that my ribbing is very neat. The edge is very neat when I start my sweaters with the ribbing, or socks for that matter with the ribbing, but I can't find a good way to make it this even when I bind it off with other kind of bind offs. I try to use the elastic bind off that I learned from Very Pink Knits, which makes a very good and elastic bind off. You know, when you use it for sweaters, there's no problem of getting the sweater above your head or through your head. Because sometimes, you knit a knit and then you bind off, and it's a very hard and non-elastic bind off, and you can't get the sweater over your head. That's sad. So I use an elastic bind off, but I can't seem to get a good straight edge when I finish off the ribbing with the bind off. So help me with that if you can. So with this Birkin, I instead had to use another patterning that I've used from Van Jastrik. So I'm combining two patterns here. And I started it. All our daughters are very small. My husband and I are short and small people, so the daughters are also. So it looks like a very small sweater, but it does fit her. So it looks like this. This is Rama Null, and I think it's a light beige. I don't remember the. I didn't have it here. I don't remember the number of the color, but it's a beautiful. I think it's one of the new ones, relatively new colors. I think it's called light beige, and it's really nice. It gives this mild effect, which is going to be lovely and then there'll be bright colors in the yoke. So I'm starting at the bottom and knitting my way up. And now she wants a relatively short sweater. I think she wants it to stop here. She wants to wear it with skirts mainly, I think. So I'll be knitting up to the armpits, and then I'll be knitting the arms with, well, not the arms, the sleeves with DPNs. And I'm using the same method as I do with Ridare, so I'll be starting with the ribbing and creasing up, and hopefully it's going to be easy to put everything together then on this round circular needle. So it's quite a lot of modifying. There's it seems a lovely pattern, but I found that for it to be used, because I want everything to be used and I want it to be the way the children want it when I knit for them. So this is a split hem and she doesn't want that, so this is just in the round. Well, mainly I'm just changing the pattern all around. And I had to search for information on how to increase and decrease, you know, instead of a top down, I need to go top up, so I have to change them around the ways to do it. So, instead of top down, which has an increase in the yoke, right? I instead have to come from a bottom up way, and instead of increase I have to decrease. So I had to learn how, because the stitches kind of lean towards one way or the other, depending on the way that you increase or decrease. So I had to find the opposite way. Instead of decreasing, I had to find the opposite way of increasing, so it's kind of a mirror thing to do. So I found that slip, slip, knit leans to the left, which I know, but I had to write it down to remember it. So slip, slip, knit ends up leaning to the left, and knit two together leans to the right. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I had to find that out first to understand how to replace the increase with a decrease so it leans in the right way. But I'll show you that and talk about how difficult or easy that was when I get to it. But right now I've started, and as this is a fingering weight sweater, it does take some time. Ridare takes a much shorter time, and well, the sweaters kind of fly off your needles with the Ridare because that yarn is so much thicker. And I have these, I'm knitting on 2.75 millimeter needles, interchangeables. And those of you who follow me on Instagram, where I'm Stickmamma Lotta, have seen a picture where I use smaller needles when knitting the ribbing, and I like knitting with wooden needles, but when they're really thin, they break easily. And in the beginning, I also find that I have to struggle when I cast on the stitches, and I have to struggle to start knitting them, and it becomes this really tight knit. And suddenly, when I sat there knitting, I could just hear a crack, and the needle broke. And it was a 2.25 millimeter needle, so I have Kammeborn's needles that I use for sock knitting. You probably know them, but I'll show them. see now. I knit with a 2.25, but I increased the size to 2.50 when I started with this. So this is a 2.5 millimeter needle, the carbons, DPNs, and as this is a small sweater with not so many stitches, I think I started out with how many stitches? 156 stitches. And then I increased, when the ribbing was done, I increased with 8 stitches, making it, that should be easy math, right? 156 plus 8 being 164. 164, that's right. So I use these for the ribbing, and they don't break because they're carbons. I don't know if they are. Somehow I find that it feels better to use wooden needles because they seem to be friendlier and more sustainable somehow, or environmentally friendly. But I don't know about these. I don't know if what they're made of is a friendly material, but I rarely use these small ones, and now I have them, and I intend to use them for as long as they're good to use. These don't break, so that's good. So I think I will be buying carbons needles to work in the round as well. These are not interchangeable. Yeah, these are set ones. Okay, but I think I will be buying some of these because when I knit finger weight sweaters, I want to have good things to work with that make it easy. So I started the knitting out with these. Sorry, I had to write my own, I'll read my own writing here. I didn't increase with 8 stitches. I started out with 156 and I increased with 6 stitches, making it 162 stitches in the round that I'm working with now. And I will be keeping this size for the yoke because when I changed or modified this pattern, I tried to work out the math with the yoke, and it turned out that it was rather difficult math to do, or maybe it's not difficult, but for me it was, and then I wouldn't have the correct number of stitches for the patterning of the yoke. So then I will have to increase I think 6 stitches when I come to the yoke. For it to be easy to knit the yoke. But I will report on my progress with this. It's going to be fun, and I hope it turns out well. So DPNs are good, even can be used for sweater knitting. So that's what I started out with, and yeah. And I've knit a sock too, Raggsockor, that I'll be selling for a friend, or to a friend. So I made this from Hoseband yarn, which is an Icelandic Istex yarn. So I've learned to just ask for measurements, measuring from the heel to how long they want the sock to be, and from the heel to the toe. And I didn't really manage that. I thought this decrease part was not as long as it is, so the sock turned out to be a bit too big. And if I can find it, I will insert how I changed it. Maybe it looks a bit drastic because I took out my pair of scissors and cut the top. I just frogged it and picked up the stitches and knit a new top. And this turned out well. So I'll use this as a measurement for the other sock. But I think it turned out well. I will have to knit myself some. When you knit, I think it's so much fun to knit for others, and it turns out I forget about knitting for myself. So my socks have really big holes. I found this nice yarn in a local store, and it said it had been made from a local sheep, and it said the breed and everything, and I bought it. It was a lovely color, but it wasn't made for socks. So now I understand why you do use a bit of nylon in sock yarn. I bought Rauma Gammelserie, which is spun in another way to make it last longer, more durable. But this yarn wasn't. So after having walked around in the socks for some days, found holes here in the heel and here. So they didn't last long. They're very cozy, but they didn't last long. And I tried to mend it, but somehow it just, new holes appear from nowhere. Not a very good yarn, not for socks anyway. So I won't be buying that anymore. But I like this text yarn. And I've had the pleasure of helping a distant friend. This with the internet can also be strange because we find ourselves looking at a phone or a computer a rather long time, and I don't like that. So I really try to think about that so I don't sit for a long time. But I have this friend and we share a lot of interests, and she wanted to knit a Hansel Hap, so I had the pleasure of helping her understand the pattern, which was a lot of fun. And she worked on the lace patterning, and I helped her, and through my way of helping, halfway through it, I realized that I was teaching her the wrong method. I've been making so many mistakes, so I remembered the wrong way to do it. So we had to start over again and do it correctly this time. But when I do get to the lace edging, maybe I will remember the correct way to do it this time, and won't have to take back or frog the knitting so many times. But it was fun though. I recorded some videos of myself sitting there knitting, and then realizing, oh, this is not the right way to do it. I had to tell her, erase everything and we'll start again. And then I recorded new things, which was a good exercise. I do like, I find that I really do like helping people with handicraft. So much fun. I am a teacher by trade, and I have been getting tired of it. It's a lot of hard work and tiresome. But this was really so much fun of thinking about a way to get the message through and teach her in an easy way. And hopefully she will have a Hansel Hap that she likes. And that was really a lot of fun. Now I do have to frog my own because well, I'm not a lace agent, but I started it. So yeah, that is what I've been doing. And I've been knitting some on the Skymningsjal by Sofia Kammeborn. Haven't gotten that far because I've started the Birkin. I've just come a bit on this. Haven't started with a new color, but I have this remaining on this yarn. And after that I will be moving into, I will be moving into this one. And then this one. And then this. And I will be finishing it off with this, a white lace edge. I'll show you that when I get to it. As I said in some, I think in the first episode, that I started out knitting with only one project at a time. Now I'm not sticking to that, now I have several. I'm knitting on the Birkin. I am going to knit a second sock in this horseband. I have to keep knitting on this, and I have my Hansel Hap. And I am going to start with the Naturae by Jennifer Steingass. That is also a Christmas yarn knit. I haven't looked at that pattern yet, but I'm deciding not to start with that until I'm done with at least the second sock of this, or as I've gotten to the yoke on this Birkin. So I have to concentrate and get things finished so that I don't have, it's just too stressful to have too many projects going at once. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I hope you've been doing fine, and been busy with knitting or other handicraft. Crocheting, baking, not so much gardening now perhaps. Or maybe some outside activities. Now I'm going to make some jam and then dinner. So hopefully I will see you soon, and thank you for today.